My wife keeps tying my boots after I've told her over and over to keep her hands off of them. I know the title sounds bizarre, and I can't believe I'm actually writing this. My wife is a neat freak. Always has been. She throws notes on my desk out, assuming they're garbage. My belongings get rearranged to the point where it takes me hours to find them. It's something I've come to accept. I'm not happy about it, but we have a pretty happy marriage on the whole. I'm a volunteer EMT, and I keep my boots unlaced up against the wall next to my clothes hamper so that I can throw them on along with my uniform if a call comes in during the middle of the night. Well, my wife has taken to tying the boot laces when she sees them untied. Not only does she tie them, but she tightens them and double knots them to the point where I need to undo the knot, open up the boots, and let out slack just to fit my feet into them. I ignored it the first 2 times, but the third time she did it, I made a point to bring it up. I very calmly said, "Hun, I appreciate that you want everything neat, but please do not touch my boots. Time is of the essence when I'm going on a call, and at 2 in the morning, I don't have time to unlace them. It's not just a minor inconvenience, it's people's lives." She rolled her eyes, said I was being dramatic, and that she wouldn't help me by keeping my things neat in the future. Well, she never stopped. No matter how many times I asked her, told her, begged her, she just laughs and says, "Well, you know how I am." The other night, a page went out for CPR in progress. I went to throw my boots on, and they were once again tightened beyond recognition. So I'm sitting there on the edge of the bed, cursing, trying to get my boots open, fumbling due to the stress of the situation. My wife opened her eyes, groggily looked at me, and asked, "Don't I need to go on that call? I know I was in the wrong here, and I regret it." I slammed the boot into the ground and yelled, "Yes, I do. I would have been out the door 5 minutes ago. Except some stupid person messed with my boots again." My wife got up without another word, walked in the bathroom, and slammed the door. I got my boots open and went on the call. By the time we arrived, the police had gotten her back, so I didn't have to do CPR. But I was sweating and shaking, thinking my delay could have cost a life. I got home, and my wife wasn't talking to me. She ignored me the entire day until we finally sat down to talk. She said I'd scared her with how angry I got, that she thought I was going to hit her, and she didn't know I was capable of getting so angry. I have never raised a hand to her, nor have I ever yelled at her before. I am absolutely not a violent person. I apologized for yelling, acknowledged that I hadn't meant to snap. I was frustrated because I needed to get to someone in need of CPR, and it was a delay that didn't need to happen. She told me that if I was going to overreact and make her afraid, then she would never touch my boots again because she didn't want to live like that. Last night, before I got into bed, I had a sinking feeling, so I went over and checked my boots. I was very disappointed to find them tightened up again, so I decided to show her how it felt. I went over to her closet and pulled out her running shoes. I unlaced the shoelaces on both of them, removed them from the shoes completely, curled them each into a little coil, put them inside the shoes, and put them back. Then I went to sleep. At 6:15, I was woken up by my wife screaming, "How could you? Why would you do this?" She was holding up both laceless shoes with tears in her eyes. My wife likes to go for an early morning run, and I knew she'd want to get out the door as soon as possible. I smiled and said, "You know how I am. I just like things neat." She continued sobbing and walked out of the room. By the time she was all laced up again, it was raining, so she missed out on her run. At this point, she's alternating between crying that I went out of my way to hurt her and ignoring my presence. She said through tears, "You admitted you were totally in the wrong for yelling at me. And then you turned around and took it out on me in a different way. What is wrong with you?" The problem is, to her, an apology means taking on 100% of the fault. When I apologized for blowing up, she took that to mean she was completely in the right. So after the post blew up and I got thousands of comments, my wife and I started talking again. We had a very serious conversation. I did apologize for what I did to her running shoes, and then I told her I had to speak some truth. I asked her to promise me she wouldn't roll her eyes, interrupt me, scoff, or get sarcastic, and she agreed. I told her that I was not kidding about my boots, that while most of the time I caught routine calls, there were instances where response time was of the essence. I told her that there have been times when my intervention was critical in saving a life, when my training helped me recognize an underlying emergency. I explained that a lot of what I see, I don't tell her about because I don't want to give her nightmares. She actually listened and didn't dismiss what I had to say. A few nights later, I had my friend Officer Rich come over. Rich was one of the cops that did CPR on the victim that night. The three of us sat on the deck and had a few beers. He talked about getting there, doing CPR, giving Narcan, waiting for the ambulance, and getting her back shortly before we arrived. Then he pulled out photos of car accidents I had worked. He showed them to my wife and pointed out, "This car went into a tree. Your husband crawled into the wreck, put a collar on the driver, and stayed in there giving him oxygen until they could get him out. Your husband pulled a 3-year-old out of this wreck. Your husband recognized that the driver had a stroke and took her to a stroke center, which likely saved her life." After that, I showed her a video of a police body cam from an overdose. I told her, "I'm not trying to attack you. I don't want to have a fight, but I want you to understand what I go through. That I hope every call is transporting a minor injury, because otherwise it means that if I don't do everything right, someone could die. If I don't get out that door as quickly as possible, someone could suffer brain damage while they're waiting for me." She acknowledged that she understood and told me she hadn't really thought about the danger of what I do until she saw those photos. I told her I think she needs to see a therapist because her compulsive tidying is hurting our marriage. I listed examples: throwing important things out, moving things without permission, messing with my gear. I offered to go together and said I'd be willing to work on things as a team. After I pointed out the pattern, she agreed it was time to speak to someone. I brought up her saying she thought I was going to hit her, and she acknowledged she'd been with guys before who flew off the handle and scared her, that she'd never seen me get that angry, and it triggered something in her. She's been very emotional lately, and the other day she started crying and said, "I hope you know how much I appreciate what you do. Knock on wood, since we had the big talk, she hasn't touched my boots." Is everything resolved? Not by a long shot, but she seems to have a new appreciation for what I do. She is the person I chose for the rest of my life, and I want us to work. I recognize I cherry-picked incidents that didn't put her in the best light, and there's a lot more to her and our marriage than that. We're going to get through this together.